Hey friends, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. In this video, I'll be covering what I would do if I had to start learning a new language completely from scratch. I'm also going to be sharing a few tips and tricks that I've learned along the way over the past few years that I've been studying and learning languages. Also, if you're interested in Japanese, I'll be showing you all the books that I've used to learn the language. All the links will be in the description below. I started learning Japanese a few years ago in 2020, and the way that I like to approach language learning is the same way we learned our native language. As babies, we get massive amounts of input, and even though we can't really speak, we start understanding little by little. We start acquiring the language. But we're adults now, we can do a lot better. We can be way more productive with our time and energy. I wasn't really interested in languages until I was 22. Spanish is my native language, and I lived in Mexico for the first 15 years of my life, and then when I was a sophomore in high school, I moved to the States, and then I started learning Japanese in 2020 by myself. And now that you know a bit more about me, let's get started with the video. The main pieces of a language are grammar, vocabulary, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And I'll talk about each one in a minute. But the first thing that you need to do, assuming you already picked a language, is learning the writing system. And this goes for languages like Chinese, Korean, Arabic, Japanese, and the list goes on and on. If you're going from, let's say, English to Spanish, you're set. You can move on. It's the same writing system. But if you're going from English to Japanese, you need to learn hiragana and katakana first. Memorizing and learning the writing system will make everything so much easier for you. Okay, so let's start with grammar. I would highly recommend getting a grammar book. You don't have to get many different ones, just one will be enough. Having a good grammar book is going to help you build a strong foundation that's going to be with you throughout your language learning journey. And try getting a book with a bunch of examples. The more the better. At the very beginning, I think you should focus on just learning basic grammar. After the basics, you can start moving on to graded readers, which I'll cover in a minute. In my case, for learning Japanese, I've been using the Japanese from Zero series, and each lesson has a video on YouTube that you can use to reinforce the material. I'm sure you can find something like this in your own language. Next, vocabulary. When first starting, I would learn the first 1,000 words. I've seen videos and articles saying that you only need a couple thousand words to be able to keep a basic conversation. According to this article from Cambridge University, a vocabulary of 2,000 to 3,000 words provides a very good basis for language use. And quick note, if you see the list and there's a word that you rarely use in your own language or the languages that you speak, just skip it. There's no point of learning it. The probability of using that word in your new language is close to zero. The easiest way to learn these couple thousand words is going on Google and searching pre-made lists. You can also download Anki and find a pre-made deck for you to study. There's also many books you can find on Amazon. You just need to search. In case you don't know, Anki is a spaced repetition app that you can use to learn material and memorize a lot better. This is very popular among medical students. It's a really good tool to use. In my case, the books that I've been using are these two. These are the books for levels N4 and N5, which gives me a grand total of 2,000 words. Now, reading. There's so many different things you can do here, but I would recommend getting started with graded readers. There's two ways you can approach reading. There's extensive reading and intensive reading. Extensive reading is reading a lot without having to look up many words. The idea is that whatever you're reading should be easy enough for you to just go through it. Here, you're pretty much reading for enjoyment. It is okay if you don't understand 100% of the content of the material, as long as you get the gist of the story. This is where graded readers come in play. Graded readers are books created specifically for language learners. This will help you read extensively. Intensive reading is, as you can imagine, reading in detail, really deconstructing all the text and translating almost word for word until you get complete understanding of what you're reading. I honestly don't like doing this too much because it really takes a lot of time. I'm a huge proponent of extensive reading because at this point you're reading for fun, not to write a research paper or a thesis. Writing. This one will be short and sweet. Writing in a new language can be time consuming, and let's be honest, how often do you really write in your own language? However, there's cases when you do want to practice writing. Let's say you're planning to journal, you need to learn how to write. Other case where I think practicing writing helps is with languages with characters like Chinese or Japanese. For me, writing kanji and vocabulary helps me remember the meaning and also the stroke order. But rather than writing, I think learning how to text in your new language can be way more useful in the future once you get to a more advanced level. Speaking and listening. I'm gonna combine these two together. To be able to get good in a language and be able to speak, you need to get massive amounts of input. You need to listen the language, you need to listen the pronunciation, you need to be able to know how the language sounds. And whether you're listening to a podcast, watching a movie, YouTube videos, you need to listen and listen a lot. And honestly, I think this is the key of having a good pronunciation. And you don't really need to speak from the beginning if you don't want to. There's a huge debate on whether or not you should start speaking from the very beginning. And I'm not for or against any of the statements. I really think it depends on the person and the situation you're in. If you're studying abroad or your significant other speaks your target language, it's gonna be easier for you. You're kind of forced to speak. Also, if you just want to get tons of input and listen for hours and hours and then start speaking after a couple of years, that's okay too. You need to personalize your plan to you and your needs. That being said, if you decide to practice your speaking skills, you can use a platform like italki or something similar. Here you can have one-on-one lessons, you can practice your speaking with community tutors, or you can even get lessons from professional teachers. Nowadays, you don't really need to leave your own home to speak a new language. And finally, a rapid fire of extra additional tips that you can use to get more exposure to the language. I have them here. Set your phone to your target language. Watch shows you've seen before, but now in your target language. Follow social media accounts teaching grammar points or vocabulary every day. Download the Language Reactor Chrome extension. And that's a wrap. I really hope you found this video useful, and let me know in the comments what language or languages you're learning. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.